I'm going to skip my usual joke this week about my opinion being better than yours because, well, given the subject matter of this week's review, it being a major release for the African American community, I don't want to be insensitive. So we'll just get right to the review, shall we? All right. February, you are becoming quite the month. No longer the dumping ground for the movies Hollywood doesn't want anyone to see. 2 years ago, we had Deadpool, which was a phenomenon, and this year we have Black Panther, which I think everyone knew was going to be a phenomenon long before it was released. And we're in the middle of opening weekend as I record this, and sure thing, this movie is going to set some major records. Black Panther is the next single-person origin film for the Marvel Universe. We've seen Ant-Man, Captain America, Doctor Strange, and of course the original one, Iron Man, before. And now it's Black Panther's turn. Black Panther has been in Marvel Comics since the early 60s. He is the king of the African nation of Wakanda, which is a nation that is very technologically advanced due to the fact that it is the only place where you can mine the resource vibranium, which is the strongest known metal on the planet, which also has many other properties allowing for great technological wonders. Wakanda hides itself in the world for this very reason. They don't want anyone to think they're any different than any other African nation. And Black Panther is the king of Wakanda, and one of the duties of the king is to take this herb, which gives him superhuman strength and agility, and he uses this to protect his nation. But since Wakanda is becoming a little more globalized, starting with Captain America Civil War and now continuing in the Black Panther film, he's getting out into the world and becoming a superhero and Avenger on his own right. I absolutely adored this movie, as I think most people will. However, that does not mean it was perfect, and I'm going to start this review by mentioning its flaws, just to, kind of get them out of the way before I gush like crazy. This being an origin movie in the Marvel canon, much like Iron Man and Ant-Man and Doctor Strange, it follows nearly exactly the same formula as those films, and I have to say that formula is getting a little predictable and old now. I'm hoping that Marvel changes things up for Captain Marvel when that comes out next year, because while in the beginning of the film I thought maybe Marvel was heading in a different direction, eventually the movie steered itself into the course of the tried and true formula all the other films had taken, and I found it a little disappointing and a little predictable when that started to happen. I won't lie. I was kind of hoping that this time along Marvel would shift things up a little bit, throw us a new story, but no, if you've seen the story of Doctor Strange and Iron Man, Ant-Man, the others, you can really predict where this one's going to head. Now, they do a good job with that formula. They do as well with that formula as they can, but it is still very formulaic. My second problem with the film would be the introduction of the love story. Now, while I did not have a problem with the character of his love interest, I just didn't think it needed to be, I didn't think she needed to be a love interest. She had plenty going on in her own right. Essentially, it almost seemed like they threw in the fact that they were attracted to each other, never really acted on it, and then at the end they were like, oh, I guess we should kiss now. And it didn't work for me. It was really kind of, they had no chemistry. It was dull. Not needed at all. It really added nothing to the story. Like I said, she was a phenomenal character in her own right. I had no issue with what she did in the movie. Just didn't see any reason for her to be a love interest, and it was actually a bit distracting. And my final issue would be the usual Marvel issue, and that is with the villain of the piece. It kind of goes in with the formula element of the film, in that the villain follows exactly the same formula they always follow with the plotline. Now, I will say that there was something fantastic about the villain this time, which I'm not going to go too much into this review because it will go into spoiler territory. I will do a spoiler. This video is going to be spoiler free. I will do a video with spoilers later, but for now, I don't want to say too much. So there were elements of the villain that I thought were far better than your typical Marvel villain. I didn't think the villain was interesting in a thematic level, in that It's exactly what they have done with the villain in every other single origin Marvel movie. Again, I saw it totally coming. I knew exactly what he was going to have to do. I knew exactly what the battle was going to be. However, on a thematic level and sort of a plot level, they did go an extra mile on this one. I'll talk about that more when I talk about spoilers in a different video. So the villain was marginally better than most Marvel villains, but for reasons of story and plot, he wasn't. He was the same as any other. Um, and that's really it with my issues with the film. Other than that, I absolutely adored this. Let's go through our cast here. We have Chadwick Boseman playing T'Challa, Black Panther himself. It was excellent. We saw him in Captain America Civil War, and we saw what he could do there, but in there he was relegated to a much more serious role than he was here. And I loved how they revealed in this movie that that serious role he takes on is only for the general public to see. Those really close to him get to see a very different T'Challa, and I love that element of the movie. I loved seeing him be relaxed, being funny, having having a sense of family and humor, which we don't see in Captain America: Civil War. However, when he isn't with his inner circle, we do see that very same character, and I think that's a nice bit of acting that we get to see him go back and forth and play those two roles. Michael B. Jordan, who you will recognize as Creed from Creed, and by the way, this was also done by the director of Creed. I am not thinking of his name right now. Let's see. Ryan Coogler. Ryan Coogler, yeah. Ryan Coogler, the director of Creed. He brought over Michael B. Jordan to play the villain, Killmonger. Now, I mentioned that I wasn't wild about his role in the story. However, that wasn't because of anything Michael B. Jordan did. He was very charismatic, did an excellent job. I don't think he made Killmonger quite as charismatic as Loki or Vulture were, but he still was far better than any other Marvel movie villain than those two. And then the rest of the cast were probably even better than our two leads. Letitia Wright as Shuri, who is T'Challa's sister and his tech genius, absolutely stole the show in my opinion. She is not only my favorite character in this movie, she may be my favorite character in... I won't go as far as to say my favorite character in any of the Marvel movies, but she ranks amongst my very favorite characters in in every Marvel movie. She's funny, she's peppy, she shows how intelligent she is. She's caring. She's a great mix of positive positive character traits that you just want to get into and adore. But she is smart enough to not make her character perfect. She does have a certain amount of naivete. She does have a certain amount of make some bad judgment calls here and there. So I absolutely adored Letitia Wright as Shuri. I think she is gonna go places, and I know she's gonna be in further Marvel films. And I look forward to her stealing the show in them as well. We also have Denari Guerra, Lupita Nyong'o, Martin Freeman. Daniel Kaluuya from Get Out comes in and plays T'Challa's best friend. And who else? We have Angela Bassett as T'Challa's mother. Excellent role. We had some pretty fantastic female roles here, both as far as how the characters were written and how they were performed. The women in this film actually largely stole the movie out from under the men, and I was quite happy with that, to see African American women so prominently and maturely presented in a superhero film really isn't something we've seen yet, and that made me very happy. Very happy to see. We need more of that going forward, and since Black Panther is going to be part of the Marvel Universe, we will see more of that going forward, and that makes me so excited. I'm so happy to see that happening. The film also was gorgeous, both from a set production and from a cultural standpoint. Wakanda itself is shown as an African nation in a very classical sense as far as culture goes. We see the colorful dress, the piercings, the dances, the music. While we don't actually see anyone on screen play music, the soundtrack has very much of a classical African vibe to it. But underneath that, we have the high technology city and country, and I love the fact that it represents that we in the West tend to look at Africa as a primitive culture. And I love the fact that this shows that the culture itself is not primitive. It's not when we see the high tech combined with the cultural trappings we normally think of as being, backwards, third world, all those words. Um, it's a great juxtaposition. It really makes you think about the entire continent of Africa differently, which I think needs to be done. It couldn't have come at a better time. Um, that absolutely threw me for a loop, but in the best possible way when I saw that going on. And visually, that contrast is also incredibly stunning. We get to see some fantastic but very creative costumes that we're not used to seeing. We get to see African mountains and jungle landscapes juxtaposed with futuristic monorails and elevators and sonic machines and nanotechnology, and it really makes for an interesting world unlike any we've ever seen, and one I really wanted to go to and visit. It's too bad it's fictional. I really wanted to like dive into this world and see a lot more of it. So I'm hoping in future films we go back to Wakanda in earnest. The action does take a little while to get going. I will say the first 20 minutes of the film or so, the setup, while necessary, is a little slow. I was beginning to wonder when we were going to get to the meat of things. But when we finally do, it hits the ground running and never stops. The action is what we've come to expect from Marvel and Disney. Very creative, very over the top, but never to the level where it distracts you and rips you out of the action. And the final action set piece in Wakanda, in particular, again, I don't want to give away any spoilers, but Marvel just always knows how to better themselves every single time. This time wasn't necessarily, well, actually, it may have been one of their biggest action set pieces. Didn't have as many named characters as we've seen in some films, but as far as the sheer number of people, yeah, it's huge. But more than just it being big, it's again like no action set piece you've ever seen before, and again largely because of the mix of the classical African culture with the high tech world and of course the superpowers. It makes for an experience that was thrilling and surprising all at once. This is a film that definitely has commentary on black culture, not just in America, not just in Africa, but throughout the world. And it's one that takes some chances. It is meant to inspire, but I think there's also a bit of a warning in there. I'm gonna have to get into it in more detail in my spoiler reviews. Let's just say that the motivations for both the heroes and the villains in this film are much more mature than they have been in any Marvel film previously. They have real world basis and consequences that could affect our world in reality, which it's very much a commentary on a lot of what's going on in not just African American cultures, but in minority cultures around the world right now. And it was fantastic to see the way they handled it, both creatively and maturely, but without ever once preaching to you. Yeah. I can't wait to talk about the spoilers because I really couldn't say everything I wanted to here. For now, though, I will just end this and say I highly recommend Black Panther. If you enjoy the other Marvel movies and have been going to see them, this one's just a no-brainer. See it. I mean, as far as the single origin stories go, this is one of the very best, if not the best. I'm trying to decide if I like Iron Man better. And I know that's saying a lot because a lot of people think Iron Man is one of the best superhero films ever made, period. I definitely say it's better than Ant-Man, Doctor Strange. I feel like I'm forgetting one, but yeah, it rivals Iron Man in its quality, in its scale, in its creativity, in every way. It really is an excellent, excellent film. So, I'm giving it my rating of own it. Get out there, see this one in the theaters on the big screen because it deserves to be seen that way. It begs to be seen that way because of its fantastic visuals and action. But when you're done seeing it on the big screen, you're going to want to see it over and over and over again. This is one, when it comes out on Blu-ray, to snatch up, take it home with you, and you'll want to break it out well, I don't know what kind of a movie viewer you are, but every once in a while, this one will make its way out of your collection. You will want to watch this one over and over again. So get out there. See Black Panther if you haven't yet already. Look for my spoiler review coming soon. I'm Shaun of Shaun's Reviews, and why develop your own taste when you can trust mine? Be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you soon. Thanks.